Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Soul in Screen. In this particular video, we will be doing a review on Tyler Perry's Sistas Season 10, episode number 3, titled With or Without You. So let's just get into it. So last episode, this was just interesting episode, but let's get into it. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I think I'm going to do these reviews kind of like character clusters, so to speak, and versus kind of trying to go in the sequence of the episode. So I'm going to start with Andi and her sister, that drama. So we know last episode we found out that Andi ended up getting a phone call from her sister Cheyenne saying that she was in jail. And so the episode picks up where Andi is getting the phone call and she's talking to her sister, and she's like, where are you? And so Cheyenne tells her I'm in county lockup. And so, Andi goes in like, what the hell you doing? Like, what's going on? And she's like, I need you to come and bail me out. And so they're doing this back and forth thing. But one of the things that I didn't like about this particular scene, or even just with them too, I think they're pushing the sister stuff too much. Like, Cheyenne doesn't need to keep saying sister, hey sister, you know what I mean? Like that, like, cause people don't talk like that. So, I wish they would lay off that. We get that she's your sister, but people don't say that kind of stuff like, hey sister. And I don't know if it's supposedly because it is such distance between them that, like Courtney is trying to drive it home, like, that because they don't have this relationship, that Cheyenne is kind of reminding her, kind of like Andi's mom does, like, you're my sister, so you're supposed to be there to help me out and all that kind of stuff, or not. But I'm not really sure if that's the point or not, but typically I'm kind of thinking maybe that's the reason why they keep bringing it up. Other than that, it's a little too much. It's just not necessary to me for them to continue the sister conversation. Hey, sister, what's up, sister? Because people don't do that. Anyway, with that being said, they continue the back and forth, and eventually, Cheyenne is like, don't tell mom. And she's like, what you mean don't tell mom? And she was just like, yeah, like, because, I don't want her to worry about me. She already sick and everything. She needs to be concentrating on her. And so Andi, like, eventually goes to pick her up. So they get to the jail, and the officer brings Cheyenne in, and she's handcuffed, and Andi's like, the handcuffs necessary, and the officer's like, it's protocol basically. So he leaves. Her and Andi are talking, and she's basically like, again picking up the what the hell conversations, like, what are you doing here? Is this how you're gonna be? Is this what I can expect if you stay here? And you know what I mean? And this is what Andi is telling Cheyenne, and she was like, you just you don't get it, like, I was just out playing, partying with friends. And she had already told her that, you just got here, so you ain't got no friends here, which, we have to remember that she's 10 years younger than Andi, so it means she's 25-ish. And that's just something kind of that I think you learn as you mature, that everybody is not your friend just because you're kicking it with them. Like, I'm not a mom, but I have a lot of nieces and a few nephews. But the nieces that I'm closer to, even in their young ages, and some of them are teenagers, I try to remind them that just because you hang out with them once or so, or hang out with a person, that doesn't make them your friend, right? Like, there's some people that are just people that you just met, you know what I mean? There are people that I try to talk to them, like, to teach them, like, work people, like work friends. If you are my friend, then little bits and pieces about my personal life. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that, you may be an associate. You are someone I associate with because of work, or in their case, school, or those kind of things. So I try to teach my nieces and those things early on, just to help them separate, because it's kind of become kind of like a colloquial kind of term where everybody is just your friend. Oh, I went out with these chicks, but yeah, they cool, they my friends, and you don't really know nothing about these people. So, and I think that is something that you get when you mature. But I think, for me, my, auntie duty is to, try to help them get that a little sooner, so that they are not running into situations with people who they think they are, who they think are their friends, and they're really not. They're just somebody that you associate with. They're somebody that you just met and you just kicked it with. You don't trust people that you just met and go out to, clubs and stuff with them and things like that. You just don't do that. It's just, teaching them those kind of things that I'm sure their parents taught them too. But, some stuff, especially when you get to being teenagers, you just don't really listen to your parents as much. You kind of, will listen a little bit to your aunt and stuff. And so anyway, I digress. But anyway, that conversation with Cheyenne and Andi went on a little bit more, to the point where it finally comes up a little bit more where Cheyenne's like, because Andi tells her something like, Mom didn't teach us teach us to do that. She taught us better than that, because she, got caught and arrested for having sex in the pool and all that kind of stuff. And so Cheyenne snaps back at Andi and was like, you don't know what Mama taught me, because you weren't around. You left when I was 8 years old and you never looked back. And so Andi was like, well, you knew, what do you want me to do? I was in college. But she brought up some guy, I forget the name that she mentioned, but I'm not sure what that means. So I don't know if it was like an ex or a boyfriend that the mom had, and maybe we're going to get something that popped up where maybe there was some sexual abuse or something, to the point where, or maybe, maybe the mom's boyfriend was, kind of eyeing Cheyenne or something. And maybe Andi kind of caught like a little bit of it, even if nothing had happened. And then maybe something did happen after she left. And maybe that's why Cheyenne, is always kind of like, is kind of coming at Andi like, you wasn't there, you wasn't around, because it's something happened where you can see that it's animosity on both sides, but you don't really know why. And I'm being patient to see how and when Courtney's going to bring that up, but I feel like it's time to let it out the bag. But anyway, they end up letting her go, and she told her, she was able to get the charges dropped. And so they end up going back to the house, and they walk in, and their mom catches them, and she asks, like, where are you guys coming from? And Andi basically is just like, I'm going to let you guys talk about this. I'm about to go ahead and go to bed. And the mom and Cheyenne have this conversation, and she's like, you went out looking all nice and pretty, and then you come back in here and you looking all hoish and that kind of stuff, and you need to get it together, go take a bath and all that kind of stuff. And Andi goes to her room, and the mom follows her, and she basically has this conversation with Andi where she's like, I know something else is going on with you. Like, I can tell, like, what's the matter? Like, I really want you to let your sister stay here. And then finally, Andi just tells her, like, Mom, I don't have time to watch no grown woman. Like, Cheyenne is an adult. She's 25, and I don't have time to babysit her. I got a lot going on in my life. And, and her mom's like, I can tell something's going on. She's like, yeah, like, I'm used to handling stuff in pieces, right? But like, everything is coming at once. Karen left, my car blew up, Sabrina's in the hospital, like, and then, now you want me to deal with this stuff with Cheyenne, and she, now she getting arrested. And so she lets it slip that Cheyenne got arrested, and she had actually told Cheyenne that she wasn't going to tell her mom. But in the midst of Andi pouring out everything that's going on with her, she slips and tell her mom. And so her mom's like, what? She got arrested? And she's like, yeah. And so they end up having this conversation. And she's just like, basically just like, well, Andi, I know she kind of a lot, so to speak, but she's like, I just think that this will be a good start for her. And she's like, what you mean good start? What does she need a good start for? And so here's the other thing with this. The mom, the sister, like, they all got some kind of secret that they hiding from each other. And I understand families have secrets and stuff. I grew up raised by my mom, and she just didn't, run our household like that. And so with that being said, I know other family members, extended families and stuff, there's like, you got family business that you don't let go out and you don't tell other people. But when you guys are like, they don't have any kids or anything outside of her mom in them. So this is your immediate family, right? So health stuff, like I don't think those kind of things, anything that's gonna hurt you or cause you pain, like I'm not sure what the secretive stuff is about, but it's not gonna work. And that's kind of what's going on here. It looks like they all have some type of secret. Andi and Cheyenne have a secret of something that happened between them, and they don't want the mom to know. That's why they don't get along. And now the mom and Cheyenne have some secret where they don't really want Andi to know so that she can come and stay with her. And so basically the mom, she's like, oh, I guess I'm getting tired. Let me leave, because she didn't want to tell Andi what was the reason that Cheyenne needed a fresh start. So the mom actually leaves, and she ends up going into the bathroom to check in on Cheyenne, who literally is in there like doing drugs in Andi's house. Like her sister is an attorney. Like if they, you know what I'm saying? Like true enough, they don't have no reason to come to her house, but you also don't know your sister, so you don't know who she entertains or anything like that. And she in there literally doing drugs in the bathtub, and she ended up falling asleep, and her mom comes in, and she's like, what you doing sleeping in the tub? And she's like, I was tired, Mom, I fell asleep. But she was truly just high and passed out. But before she ended up passing out, I think it was before she got a phone call. Sound like it might be from somebody who's looking for her. I don't know if this is a boyfriend, and maybe it's an abusive relationship, or just a relationship that's not good, that maybe maybe cultivating an environment of drugs and a whole bunch of just stuff that's going on that she needs a new start from, that they're keeping from Andi. But I say that to say it's something going on there. So that is a little intriguing to see kind of how Courtney's going to tie that bow up and things like that. But let's see. Let's move on from them. That's pretty much what was done with Andi and her people. Let's go to Zach and Fatima. So Zach and Fatima, scene picks up with them, and they are at home, and they just finished having having sex and having some intimate moments and stuff. And so it picks up with them literally like kind of both falling on the bed, like just, exhausted from, enjoying each other and things like that. And they have a conversation, and Zach looks at Fatima, and she's like, she kind of says something like, no, I love that look. And he's like, no, it's not like that. Cause he was like, I basically put it on you. And she was like, yeah, you kind of did your thing, but not really. Like, and he was like, what? And so she was like, no. Like, I know that look, we good. Like, and he was like, no, I wasn't thinking that. And he was like, I'm just thinking about our future. And so she was like, what you mean? And he was like, I'm thinking about a whole bunch of little Taylors running around. And she's like, all right, now, like, slow your roll. Like, how many are you talking about? And he was like, I don't know. And he tells her, but at least we'll be having fun trying, however many we decide to have, kind of a situation. And she's like, yeah. He was like, but I'm really just talking about like us and our future leveling up. And she's like, what you mean? And he told her that, you notice the gym is on sale. And she was like, yeah, I did see that. He was like, I was thinking of buying. What you think? And so she was like, oh, okay. And she was like, as far as, what do they have? Rise Ventures kind of thing. And he was like, no, I'm talking about for us. Like, this will be separate. This will be for like the Taylors. This will be our family thing. Like, he was like, I would love to run a gym. We just got to fix it up. And so she was like, okay, I'm liking the diversification of your portfolio and stuff. And he was like, yeah. And so they were talking about, leveling up in that case. And then, she goes, she kind of looks off a little bit. And she's like, Zach, I know you kind of are really excited about this mentorship thing with Mr. Keys. And he's like, yeah, I am. And she's like, Zach, I just don't trust him. And he's like, why? And she's like, I just don't. And he's like, well, first he tells her like, okay, I got you. And then she's like, okay. And he goes, I just think it might be your hormones. And she was like, it's not my hormones. She was like, it's not that, it's just something. And he was like, all right, I hear you. And so she put that out. And I know people are probably going to be mad at Fatima again, because they just be looking for reasons like why she didn't say nothing about Mr. Keys. And I honestly don't think she should. It's still too early. She don't know enough. She overheard a conversation, and she doesn't have enough information to me for her to disclose that. So I do think that, kind of until she gets some more information, or maybe even to the point where she has her own conversation with Mr. Keys so that she can get some details and have a conversation with all three of them. But I honestly don't think this was the moment for her to say anything to Zach about Mr. Keys and the conversations that she heard before the barbecue either. That's just me, my opinion. But I did like the fact that they gave us more than, 20 seconds of them this time. This was a really cute scene again between them. After they had that conversation, she turns over to kind of lay down because she's like, I got to go to work. And he like scoots up. She's like, no, Zach, like, we not doing it again. She was like, but we can cuddle. And so he was like, all right. And so he scoots over, close to her and stuff. And she's like, Zach, I said we gonna cuddle. And so she, says something like, Zach, get your heart, D off of me, off my butt, you know what I mean? Like, and so then the scene ends, and that's pretty much it for them. But it was good to get a longer scene with them. And of course, the Zatima scenes are cool. Wasn't a whole lot going on there, but at least they had conversation about, their future. It wasn't about Karen. Thank you, Lord, because I'm just tired of them talking about Karen. But definitely about their future, which, it was cool. So I thought that was a pretty decent scene with them. Let's go ahead and move to Danni. So Danni's situation is a trip. So Danni, when her scene opens up, she's literally outside this little grocery store that she had just went to go pick up some snacks because she's stressed, right? Her best friend / sister that, she's super close with, talks to multiple times a day, just got into this horrible car accident and is in a coma. So she goes and she picks up some sweets. Her man and her arguing. She don't really know what their relationship is. So she's stressed. So she go get some comfort food. So she comes out of the store and it's Officer Green. And so he comes up behind her while she's putting her bags in the trunk. And he's like, comes up behind her. She's like, oh my goodness, you scared me. He was like, hey, what's up? And she was like, nothing. He was like, well, you haven't been calling me back. And so, responding. And so she was like, yeah, I got a lot going on, and so she ends up telling him about Sabrina, and then he kind of goes, oh, wait a minute. I was an officer on scene about that. And she just kind of, like I said, like he remembered Maurice, but he didn't remember Sabrina. And it turns out that he actually did kind of say that he kind of recognized her, but didn't really put two and two together or whatever. But anyway, so she's like, I got a lot going on, so I don't really want no company, because he's like trying to come over, like, want some company. And she's like, no, I really don't. I just want to be by myself. It's a lot going on. And, Karen just left. Now my sister is in a hospital in a coma. And, she's like, and then the stuff that, with her dude. And so he's like, well, I could come keep you company. And she's basically telling him that was a mistake. And he's like, well, maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was just you done. You need to be done. And so she's like, no, it shouldn't have happened. And so he's like still trying to push up. And so she's trying to be nice and tell him no, that she don't really want any company. So she finally said no. He was like, well, if you change your mind, call me. And so she was like, got you. I don't think that's going to happen, but cool, So she goes home. And she's eating, through her ice cream and everything, just having a nice, good time, enjoying her comfort food, right? And she ends up going to change because she's spilling stuff on herself, and she ends up going to change. By the time she gets back, she's like laying down in her bed in her pajamas, and she gets this knock on the door. And she's like, who is it? And they knocking on the door all hard. And so she's like, I said, who is it? And he was like, it's Marcus. And so she opens the door and she was like, Marcus, what are you doing here? Because I told you I didn't want no company. He was like, yeah, but I just wanted to see you. And so she was like, yeah, well, I already told you, like, Marcus, this ain't happening. Like, I need to be alone. And, she's like, you more than anybody need to understand, like, should understand. You saw, the accident, because he literally told her that was one of the worst accidents that he's ever seen in his career. And we don't know how long he's been on the force, but that's still saying something. And so he's like, still like, well, yeah, I just wanted to talk to you and see. And so she's like, listen, I don't really want to talk to you. And so she tries to close the door, and he opens it, like he stops her from closing the door. She's like, what are you doing? And he goes like, it's interesting how it takes two people to agree to start talking to each other. And then, but it only takes one of them to end things. And let me put a pin here. So we wasn't talking, like, just because they slept together. See, this is why you got to be careful, ladies. And I don't know if there's a lot of young ladies on this channel or not. And I understand, you young, you think you can go out and do all this kind of stuff. And, you may have a level of protection, but you got to be careful, because this man literally had sex with her. She took him home. She thinks he's safe because he's a cop, right? And she sleeps with him, and she don't want nothing to do with him. And he's now showing up at her house, and he pushes through her door, and he's forcing himself. And so they end up, for those who didn't see the episode, she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, I want to talk. I want to talk to you. And he starts telling her, like, you really put it on me last night. And I'm like, so he's like now wanting to be with her and pushing it. And she's steady trying to tell him, I'm good. Like, we ain't, as far as I'm concerned, we never gonna see each other again. And she's really trying to tell him that, but in a nice way. But of course, he takes it on, and he's not hearing what he says. So he pushes into her house, and he literally tries to attack her. And that's what I'm saying. So young ladies out there, be careful. Like, just because he in a police uniform or anything like that, you can't do that. Keep yourself safe. So anyway, he attacks her. He literally tells her and grabs her, throws her on the bed. He's choking her. He literally tries to rape her, and she gets away to the point where she's able to hit him with a cast iron skillet. And it looks like she beats him up a couple times with it and is able to get away. Now, two things I want to bring up with this particular scene. So one, it was the way that, he said something to her. He was like, she said, I wanted to be alone because she wanted to deal with what was going on with Sabrina. And he was like, I want to be here, but I want to be here for you. And I bring that up because I want to see if the Karen fans, how they're going to react to what he said to Danni, because that was something that Aaron told Karen when she told him to kick rocks the first time. She was like, I just want you to go, give me some space and everything. And guess what? He told her the same thing, which was, I know, but I just want to be here for you. And he kept saying that over and over again. And the reason that I bring that up is because I wonder if they're going to call out the stalker tendencies in the statement that the officer said versus the stalker tendency that that Aaron said. Because Karen told Aaron multiple times to leave her alone, give her some space. Because again, she never wanted him, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, oh, she just don't know how to, receive love or anything like that. And I was just like, no, she just don't want him, but he wants her, and he's pushing himself on her. Those are not love tendencies. You don't push yourself. Love does not force its way, right? Like, you don't have to do that. If you're truly in love, that's not what you have to do. And so, it'll be interesting just to see if how they correlate the two, because that was definitely a red flag for the fact that, first of all, him showing up at her place when she's saying no. Everything that he's doing right now is what Aaron did with Karen. The only issue is, the only difference is right now based on this episode that we saw is he literally tried to attack Danni and rape her where, Aaron didn't do that. But Aaron did not respect her boundaries, Karen's boundaries. He kept coming up and coming over. He wanted to do, because I want to talk to you, because I want to. And so Officer Green is doing the same thing and demonstrating the same tendencies that Aaron did. But I wonder if the Karen fans will be able to correlate the two. Anyway, moving on. The next thing that I didn't, that was interesting in this particular scene was that I am glad that Danni was able to fight him off for herself so that it didn't turn into the whole Preston, rescuing her and then her getting back together. And I honestly hope that's not what happens with her and Tony. And I say that to say, because in the previews for next episode, we see that somehow he ends up at her house. So I don't know if it's because she calls him, to tell him what happened and ask him to come over, or we don't know that yet. But I think that, I hope they don't try to go that route, because it didn't work, right? Like with Preston. But part of the reason it didn't work, because Danni really did not want Preston. She liked him. She liked the idea of him, but she really wasn't in love with him. She didn't really want him like that. It is different with Tony. She actually wants Tony. And as much as some of us don't really think that they should be together, she wants him. And so kind of like I say with my friends, like once a friend of mine tells me that they want this person and they want to be with that person, then you're grown. So because I know me, if I want something, you do whatever you can to get what you want. And so if you want this person, then you're going to do what you want. So, all I can do is be there to support and, in whatever way I can, knowing that we going to have a difference of opinion on this. So with that being said, I hope it doesn't I don't want to see these storylines recycle is what I'm saying. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to certain things, if you want to take it on a spiritual level, this thing that keeps happening to Danni, it is absolutely kind of like a spiritual thing. She got assaulted in college. She got assaulted with, Noah. And now she's getting attacked by Officer Green. And the reason I say that is because there are some spiritual connotations to certain things happening cycle-wise to people in their lives and stuff like that. And so anyway, I won't go deep into that, but there's that. Anyway, that was the end of it with Danni and that whole situation. I thought it was very interesting scene. Wasn't really surprised because once he started kind of coming up to the house, and I seen not the house, when he came up to her after the car and all that kind of stuff, I just kind of was wondering, like, he was always giving me sus anyway. Something was off with him anyway, so I'm not super surprised that it went this way, but it'll be interesting to see how this affects Danni, because like Andi said, things are starting to compile on top of each other. One of their best friends just moved. Andi's car blew up. Sabrina's in the hospital with a coma, and now she's being sexually assaulted. Like, literally something happened to all of her and her closest friends, and that's a lot to deal with. So in addition to the breakup that she's experiencing or possibly going through with the man that she loves. So this is a lot for Danni, so it's going to be interesting to see. But she did kind of say to the Officer Green that not everything that you that is good to you is good for you, which was something that Sabrina told her. So sounds like she is trying to reflect on some of those things that Sabrina told her to try to use to be bring her into a different place and headspace wise, more so on the positive side. So hopefully, us knowing that Novi is leaving, eventually she most likely will die, unless they just gonna keep her in a coma. But hopefully she'll go towards that route, and especially since she's already seeing a therapist, and that'll help kind of take her into that place and space. So that's it for Danni. The next was the Maurice stuff. Listen, I understand that, it seems like Courtney's trying to really give everybody like a little bit of business and storyline, because he did that very well in Zatima. I don't know if I'm in regards to the secondary kind of characters. It's called Sisters, right? So it was cool how, Tyler in the past has leave them in there. The other writers didn't do that well. I'm waiting to see how Courtney's going to do right now. The stuff that he's bringing forth, I don't need it. The conversation with Maurice calling Calvin, I don't care about that. It just was filler stuff to me. You know what I'm saying? And then it was over the top with us hearing him cry and all that. Like, it just that scene didn't hit for me. And then him calling Pam and telling her and just talk. It was just that whole scene, those whole scenes with Maurice. Like, I don't want nobody to lose their job or anything like that. It just wasn't necessary. I feel like they could have did more with the Zach and Fatima scene, although we got more time with them. Or even if they didn't want to give it to Zach and Fatima, I feel like they could have just went into the next day already, because it seems like, we still in this same night. Like, this is all still the same day of the barbecue. This is just later that night, and we going on the third episode of Sisters coming next week, and then it was the final episode. So technically we four episodes of the same day and night. Now hear me when I say this. I know this is something that they do, but I want the story to move along a little bit better if we're going to do that. If we're going to spend multiple days or episodes in one day, I want the story to push a little bit faster than it's doing, and it's not really doing it for me. So anyway, that's pretty much what I have for this particular episode. I think I grabbed everybody. I know last episode I forgot the Tony and Rich conversation, which was fine for what it was, but it wasn't really memorable to me. But I think I got everything this time. But this episode, it was okay. It was definitely another filler episode. I would like them, if for me as a person who's watching the show, I would like the filler episodes to be spaced out a little bit more, unless they about to give it to us in the next, like really knock us out with these next a few episodes. And I mean, like, other than that, I would rather them weave them in, like having 2 filler episodes back to back, and this is the 3rd episode, huh? My bad. The 2nd episode and the 3rd episode both be fillers. Nah, I don't, and to each his own is, no shade to the writers or anything like that. I just, as a person watching it, am not wanting or liking the direction it's going so far, but still going to give it some more time before I call it for sure. But the last 2 episodes, episode number 1, yes. Episode number 2, it was okay. Episode 3, not at all. It was definitely not a hit for me. But had good moments in it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't want to say I didn't like it. It just was definitely still another filler episode. That was let me just say it that way. Episode 2 and 3 were both okay episodes to me for what they were, filler episodes, but it's not really progressing the storyline as quickly as I would like it to. So, and it could be a reason for that when we, as we progress and see as the season continues. So hopefully some more light will come to, why we're taking our time, but I really hope we don't spend like episodes into one day and kind of like season 9 did, because that was horrible. That was just horrible. So I really hope Courtney doesn't do that, but still gonna give him some grace and at least and see what's up. Maybe by episode number 6, 5, 6, 7, I'll probably be able to be like, yeah, if we're still getting filler episodes up until then I'm kind of gonna be able to be like, this ain't going well. But still trying to keep the momentum, but it's not there yet. It's not like when it's Wednesday, I'm like, oh my goodness, let me make sure I got my food, my drink. Let me tell everybody I'll text them later. I'm not there yet. I'm absolutely watching Sistas while I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And so I'm waiting for Courtney to grab my attention again with his writing, because I am looking forward to it, because I saw what he did with Zatima, and I'm hoping he'll do this with Sistas. But so I'm over here still keeping hope alive, you guys. But anyway, that's it. Let's get into the conversation. Tell me what you guys thought about the episode. Tell me what you thought about Andi and her mom's conversation, and then Cheyenne and her mom's conversation. Do you see the secret keeping, kind of dynamic that's going on both sides? And what do you think about that? What do you think about, the Zach and Fatima scene? We got a little bit longer, a Zach and Fatima scene, of course, which was fine. I like the direction that they're going. That's kind of when they, had their little pillow talk and then, flirting with each other like they normally do, but still got some business. Babe, I want us to, buy a gym, and it's going to be for us. It's going to be our family thing. This is going to be something like we can franchise out. Our kids, everybody can be a part of it. I like that in a couple of different ways, because that's actually, good when you bring the family in, because that's talking about legacy and things like that, which DeVal and Crystal both really are into that place and space. So again, kind of like some of their who they are as true people, some of that dynamic was brought into their characters. And so I like that. Let's talk about, the Danni and the Officer Green thing. Did you guys see what I'm saying as far as some of the, the things that Aaron was saying and did, if you think back, compared to what Officer Green is saying now? So I am really interested to see how those conversations are going to take place, and if people can see the two and draw the connection. Because I think they were, especially the Karen fans, were giving Aaron a lot of grace because he was supposedly a man of God, or he said he was. Let me not say supposedly. According to the show, he was a preacher, so he was a man of God. I just didn't think that he was demonstrating very good witness as opposed to that. So that's just my thought on it. So let's get into the conversation like we do. And I will definitely see you next episode. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And I will talk to you or see you next video. Bye.